Do you ever feel like you are not living the life that you truly want to because you are worried about what other people might think? Now just imagine a life where their opinions didn't matter. A life where you were unapologetically you. Sounds freeing, right? Well, it's possible and it may be closer than you think. So let me show you how to make that a reality today. Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm happy that you are here. For chapter 1 today, we're going to talk about why we care so much about other people's opinions. You know I love to talk about the why behind it all. Now, have you ever stopped to ask yourself why somebody's random opinion can ruin your entire day? Well, the thing is, it's not actually your fault. As humans, we are wired to care what other people think. It's biology, it's not weakness. Thousands and thousands of years ago, survival depended on being part of a group. Back then, being rejected didn't just bruise your ego, it could leave you vulnerable and alone, which basically was a death sentence. Fast forward to now, and while we're not dodging saber-toothed tigers anymore, that instinct to seek acceptance just hasn't gone away. Instead, it adapted into our modern world, and not always in ways that it serves us. Think about it. Caring what others think helps us build social connections, find community, and learn how to fit into society. But somewhere along the way, this survival strategy became a recipe for self-sabotage. Because in today's world, the stakes aren't as high. Yet, we still treat a disapproving look by somebody, or a sarcastic comment, or a lack of likes on our Instagram post as a threat to our sense of worth. And the problem? Well, that natural desire for approval locks us into a pattern that holds us back. Whether it's anxiety, people-pleasing, or even just avoiding things that we're actually passionate about. Here's an example that might sound familiar. Picture someone who has always dreamed of starting a YouTube channel. But instead of taking the first step, they freeze under the weight of what other people might say. Well, people think it's embarrassing, is it cringy? My friends watch them, let alone the ones from high school that many people still care about their opinions even though they haven't seen them in like 10 years. That fear of judgment becomes so paralyzing that they stick into their comfort zone, quietly shelving their dream and leaving it for something that's just never done. How many of us can relate to that constant dance of adjusting, hesitating, second-guessing ourselves just to avoid certain criticism that may not even happen? A lot of this actually takes root in our early lives. Like most things, we are conditioned to believe that our worth depends on how other people see us, not just how we see ourselves. And let's not forget about the outside world, because society loves to amplify the need for approval from other people. From school rankings to Instagram likes, everything seems to be designed to reinforce one big idea. You are only okay if others say so. Psychologists have actually even studied this in depth. They call it the spotlight effect, where you assume everybody's attention is on you, dissecting your every move like a singular performance. Like when you walk to your table in a restaurant or walk just through the gym, you feel like everyone is staring at you. But here's the thing, most people are way too focused on their own lives to even notice yours. Of course, knowing this doesn't really make it much easier to stop caring. The voices that's in your head, the one that panics when it senses disapproval, gets louder because of its years of practice convincing you that judgment from other people is a threat. And yet, here's where things get tricky. Caring about what other people think isn't inherently bad. In fact, it's part of the reason why humans are so good at forming relationships and working together. The problem happens when those instincts take over and start controlling your decisions. Suddenly, instead of acting what is actually meaningful to you, you're acting to avoid rocking the boat. You're just constantly chasing approval, and it can be extremely dangerous. Now, you are not alone in this. And if it feels like it's hardwired, it's because it sort of is. But the great thing is, it doesn't mean you are stuck with it. You do not have to shut out every single person's opinion entirely. It's not healthy and it's often not even realistic. Instead, what if you decided to redirect that energy? What if, rather than giving up the instinct to care, you learned how to manage it? It's all about reclaiming the control. When you start to frame this behavior as natural rather than a failure, it takes the weight off. You're not broken for caring what other people think. You're human. It just happens. Instead of trying to silence that instinct, you're more likely to have success if you learn how to make peace with it. And that's where true freedom really lies. Sometimes judgment says more about the person that's giving it rather than the one that's actually receiving it. Which leads us perfectly into chapter number 2, which is the truth about why people judge. Now, what if I told you that most of the time other people's judgment isn't even about you? Crazy, right? But it's actually the truth. People's opinions, especially the harsh ones, the critical ones, usually have far more to do with their own insecurities, their own fears, their own values, than it has anything to do with what you've actually done. It's almost never personal, and that realization can be a game changer. So here's how it works. When someone passes judgment, they're often projecting their internal struggles onto other people. A person who's stuck in their own self-doubt or unable to face their fears may see your confidence, your decisions, or your risks that you take as a mirror that highlights what they're actually avoiding. For example, someone who might disapprove of you quitting your stable job to chase a creative passion, on the surface, it looks like they're concerned about your choices, but in reality, they might fear failure so deeply that seeing somebody else pursue their dream and their aspirations, it makes them feel uncomfortable. Somebody's attempt of bringing you down is just trying to lift themselves up, or at least make them on the same level as them. But at the end of the day, it's deeply rooted in insecurity. And while this knowledge might feel freeing, it's not personal. It's not always simple to internalize. When people criticize you or dismiss your ideas, it's almost automatic to think, well, what's wrong with me? And that reaction is natural because for most of us, external opinions have always been connected to our worth since we were young. Breaking that link takes time. It takes practice and it takes patience. But reframing judgment as projection is the first step. Sometimes judgment comes from society's conditioning as well. Many people are raised to prioritize external approval and live for other people's standards. Now, if someone judges you for living differently, whether it's starting your own business or choosing a specific hobby or even just setting boundaries in your life, it might be because they've internalized the idea that you're supposed to follow a specific and safe path. And you challenging that narrative might make them feel uncomfortable. And again, that discomfort speaks volumes from where they are emotionally, not about you. So where does this leave you? Well, learning to see judgment as a reflection of another person's reality, not your own, opens up a whole lot of room for growth. Because instead of taking criticism personally, you can start to notice the patterns, become more self-aware. Seeing judgment from this angle does not erase it entirely, but it weakens the grip of it. It's no longer about why do they dislike me? It becomes what does this say about them? Takes it off of you, stops it from being personal. And here's the twist. Judgment can actually teach you something if you change how you react to it. It's a reflection, yes, of the person giving it, but it also shows what triggers you. If someone's comment puts you on the edge, maybe it's pointing to an insecurity that you haven't worked through yet that you should know of. Discomfort isn't always bad. It can help you grow, and you can use it as an opportunity for self-reflection rather than self-doubt. When you look at judgment through this lens, you're no longer absorbing it or claiming it as your own. You're observing it, choosing whether to accept it, and moving forward either way. Once you adopt this perspective, other people's opinions lose their power to stop you from living authentically, unapologetically yourself. And when you combine this mindset with the tools to build internal confidence, you'll start to see judgment for what it really is: background noise. Chapter 3 is my favorite because we're going to talk about how to truly be unbothered and love yourself in the process. Living for yourself starts with one thing: internal validation. So let me hit you with something powerful. Galatians chapter 1 verse 10 says, "Am I now seeking the approval of man or God? Or am I still trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." So good. Now, whether you are religious or not, the essence of that verse is universal. It's about choosing authenticity over the endless trap of trying to please everyone. And that's what makes internal validation the ultimate antidote to caring too much about other people's opinions. Think about it. Why pour energy into earning approval from sources that will never fully satisfy you when you could be investing that energy into understanding, loving, and trusting yourself and who you are in God's eyes? See yourself as God sees you. Repeat that to yourself every single day. Because here's the cost of depending on external validation. You lose the ability to make decisions for yourself, shaping your life around what other people think about you and what you should be doing instead of actually what you want to do. It's a kind of addiction that's subtle at first, like deciding not to wear something that you love because what if they say something? Oh, there's too much. It's liking a picture, but hesitating before you want to post it because you're too worried about how many likes it's gonna get or how it will be received. Seeking validation starts to take hold in the tiny moments, but over time, it builds walls around you. And eventually you're stuck in a loop asking permission to just be yourself. Now, how do you break out of that cycle? First, let's stop trying to fit in when we were born to be different and stand out. People spend so much time editing themselves for others that they even forget to ask what they value, what they care about, and what defines them as a person. Something that's good to shake that out is to write down two things: who you are and who you are not. What you stand for, what you value, what brings you joy, and what does not. For example, you might realize you're creative, you're adventurous, you're caring, but you are not small, you are not a people pleaser, and you are not somebody who needs permissions to follow their passions. Writing down what you accept and what you reject helps you ground in your authenticity. It's simple, but it can work. And if you're like me, a visual person, it's really good. Daily practices build resilience in ways that add up over time. Affirmations might sound cheesy, but they're quick and they're effective. Telling yourself simple truths like, I am enough just as I am, or even, I don't need anyone's approval apart from God's. They rewire your brain to focus on internal validation instead of waiting for somebody else to give it to you. Here's something that I want you to do. Intentionally do something this week that you may consider cringy. Hear me out. Go and post that TikTok you've had saved in your drafts for months. Wear the outfit you might think is a bit too much. Do something that you would consider embarrassing on purpose. Why? Because it teaches you that life goes on. Embarrassment is literally a made-up emotion that you choose to feel. So just don't choose to feel it. Most people either won't notice, won't remember, and even if they do, it's their reaction and not yours that actually matters. The amazing thing is, as you start to focus internally, it has ripple effects on your external life. You attract the right people because you're no longer molding yourself to the wrong ones. Confidence and authenticity draw in relationships that actually align with your values. The foundation of it all, though, at the end of the day, is self-love. And self-love isn't just about the feel-good moments. It's about accepting yourself when you are at your messiest, when you are at your most vulnerable, and not trying to fix every single flaw just to be better in other people's eyes. Self-compassion is where the magic happens, and it's what lets you move through life being unapologetically you. Because no matter what other people think, you are secure in who you are. So remember this, loving yourself doesn't mean everyone else will. It means that their approval won't matter as much anymore. If you want a full video on building self-love, let me know in the comments below and I'd be happy to make that video. The truth is, all of this takes time. Removing your care and worry about what other people think just doesn't happen overnight. But every small step that you take, every moment where you stop and choose yourself over somebody else's opinion, it brings you closer and closer and closer. Imagine what your life would look like a year from now if you start all of this today. How good you'll feel when you are genuinely living an unbothered life because you know that your worth doesn't come from other people's opinions. You're not just living, you're living full and freely and authentically. Confidence isn't just about shutting other people's opinion out. It's about deciding whose opinions actually matter to you, and most importantly, prioritizing your own. Trying to control other people's opinions is literally impossible. Everyone has their own opinions and you can't control them. Instead, it's taking ownership about how you view yourself. At the end of the day, the goal is not to be liked by everyone, nor to gain approval by everybody. And once you embrace this, you will see the power of building a life that feels true to you. I will leave you today with one of my favorite quotes that has always stuck with me, and that is, what people think about you is none of your business. So I want you to become self-aware, especially over this next week. And when you start to feel yourself thinking about other people's opinions, or the care and worry about what they're saying about you or what they would think, I want you to stop in your tracks, be aware that it's there, and say, I don't accept this. Something I like to do in my head when something comes into my mind that I don't accept, I imagine inside of my brain like a whiteboard, and whatever it is, it's written on it, and then I just imagine it being erased. Getting to the point of not caring about what other people think about you and becoming unbothered, it takes time. It took me years, but once I had built that, it changed my entire life. And I promise you, it can change yours too. If you enjoyed content like this, then please consider subscribing and joining the family. And if you enjoyed this video, then you'll really enjoy this one next. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.